Hello and welcome back to the box office, guys. Now for this week's episode, we're going to jump right into it. We have fireworks coming up this weekend as Joe Smith Jr. takes on Artur Beterbiev. Now, when I say you don't want to miss this fight, I'm saying you don't want to miss this fight. Both of these fighters are come-forward fighters. They don't take no for an answer and they throw punches in bunches. They might have potential Fight of the Year candidate going on here. So, let's talk about this fight for a little bit. In one corner, we have Joe Smith Jr. and his background started when he bursted onto the scene after defeating Bernard Hopkins. Bernard Hopkins at that time was an older fighter, but he was still looking good and winning fights. Joe Smith, being the rough and rugged fighter that he is, came in, overwhelmed an older Hopkins, knocked him out of the ring, and that's when Joe Smith bursted onto the scene. He's had a quite, bumpy ride, but he's remained at the top level, continuing to fight, continuing to compete, and he actually got a WBC belt. On the other end, we have Artur Beterbiev, the boogeyman, you can say. This is the guy that flies so under the radar, and he is actually coming in with a 17-0 and 17 of those wins all by knockout. So 100% of his wins are by knockout. Looking to do the same, he's unifying this bout. The winner of this fight is going to have the majority of the belts and will ultimately, maybe, hopefully, fans want it to have an undisputed matchup as well at this weight class. So, Joe Smith Jr. versus Artur Beterbiev. Fireworks, guys. Let's talk a little bit about our Vegas underdog, Joe Smith Jr. He's going to be entering the ring at a plus 600. A plus 600 underdog, meaning you bet $100, and if Joe Smith were to pull off an upset and beat Beterbiev, you would walk out with $600 for every 100 that you put in. He's going to be entering the ring at 28 wins and 3 defeats. 22 of those wins coming by the way of knockout, and he's been stopped one time in his career. I would write a little asterisk as that loss by TKO actually came in 2010, and it was against Eddie Caminero, very early on in his career. His height is listed at 6 feet tall, and his reach is 76 inches. His last 3 fights were against Steve Gafford, where he won by KO, Maxim Vaslov, where he won a majority decision where he didn't quite look himself, and then prior to that, Elider Alvarez in an exciting fight that had give and take action, ultimately with Joe Smith gaining momentum and stopping Alvarez by TKO. If you're curious about his 3 losses came against Dimitri Bivol in 2019, Sullivan Barrera in 2017, and as I mentioned, Eddie Caminero by TKO he lost in 2010. So he has been building an impressive resume, one that says I'll fight anyone and anyone, proving to be true by stepping into the ring this weekend against the Vegas favorite Artur Beterbiev. Artur Beterbiev is going to be the minus 1100 Vegas favorite, meaning you bet $1,100, and if Beterbiev wins, you get 100 in return. Not a smart investment, but he's a huge Vegas favorite, and rightfully so, with all his wins coming by the way of knockout. He's going to be entering the ring at 17-0 and 17 KOs. His height is listed at 5'11 and a half, and his reach is 73 inches, listed at. His last 3 bouts were against Marcus Brown, Adam Denise, and Alexander Gvozdev. I will note, Beterbiev, being regarded as the boogeyman of the division, has defeated different styles of boxers. Marcus Brown was a slick, skilled boxer, was supposed to be able to at least go the distance potentially. He was able to break him down. Alexander Gvozdev was a taller fighter, 6 foot, trying to land punches over the top, and did, land his fair share, but ultimately Beterbiev was able to break him down as well. Adam Diniz also broke him down in a more of a straight stand in front of you matter, but anyone that they've put in front of him, he's stopped. Enter Joe Smith, who's gonna bring it just as much as Arthur, making this a very, very, very exciting matchup. Now, for those of you that are interested on the lines, we do have a fighter fighting out of whose most of his fights were in Canada, coming to the States to fight a career underdog. Let's start off talking about the lines for Joe Smith, the Vegas underdog, as those numbers are typically a little more juicy. So the money line for Joe Smith, as I mentioned, is at a plus 600. When you bet $100, he wins any way, shape, or form. You get 600 in return. Now, do you think Joe Smith is going to pull off the unthinkable and win by KO? That's sitting at a plus 900. Plus 900. You bet $100, and if he knocks out Arthur, you get 900 in return for every 100 that you spend. By decision is at a plus 1,400, which makes it very interesting because the odds makers are giving you an idea of what they think would happen if he were to pull an upset. They think that he would knock him out, opposed to him winning the majority of the rounds and getting a decision victory via the judges. Now, this fight had a prop bet that I like to play with, and it's the first half of the fight versus the second half of the fight knockout. So do you think Joe Smith can win the fight within the first 6 rounds? That's sitting at a plus 1,700. Do you think he can win the fight in rounds 7 through 12? That's sitting at a plus 1,800. So if you want to split that in half, give you some more juicy numbers, those are always fun to play with. Still not likely as you look at the odds, but they're there. Now, on the other hand, we have Artur Beterbiev, money line, minus 1,100. As I mentioned, not a lot of value. Well, let's take a look at the knockout, right? Because it's hard to knock someone out, but this guy comes in with 100% knockout ratio. That's sitting at a minus 240. By decision is where you start seeing the plus money, and that's sitting at plus $320. So in order for you to make money, you would want to bet Artur Beterbiev by winning by decision. Odds makers don't think that's going to happen, as a KO is sitting at a minus 240, and they're giving you the idea of, yeah, this guy is the boogeyman. He's knocked everyone out. Styles make fights. It'd be exciting, but ultimately, it won't reach the decision. And speaking of reaching the decision, we do have, does the fight go the distance? And that's sitting at a plus 250 if the fight does make it to the decision. If the fight doesn't make the decision, that's sitting at a minus 360. So the odd makers don't think this fight's going to go the distance, and why should they? Come forward fighters, they exert a lot of energy, throw punches that hurt you. They don't see it going the distance. I don't see it going the distance. Do you guys see it going the distance? Now, as I mentioned, if you want to make some money off Beterbiev by KO, there's going to be one way to do it. And that way is going to be guessing if he wins in the first 6 rounds or in the second half of the fight, which would be 7 through 12. If you think rounds 1 through 6, that's sitting at a plus 165. So you finally see some plus money. And if you think rounds 7 through 12, that's sitting at a plus 130. Odds makers think if the knockout is going to happen, it might happen in the second half of the fight, but it's very close. They can also see it going in the first half. Now, do you think this fight's going to be a draw? I surely don't, but if you do, that's sitting at a plus $3,800, meaning you bet $100, the fight's a draw, you get $3,800 in return. Now, this is going to be a very exciting fight. Fireworks, as I've been mentioning. So, let's take a look at the keys to victory for both of these fighters. We're going to keep going with the Vegas underdog, Joe Smith Jr. And first things first, key number 1 is going to be get your head off the line. Because you're a come forward fighter and you like to throw punches in bunches. But if you look at the last flurry of your last fight, and I will say Steve Jafar was kind of just covering up, taking punishment, even so, you were just throwing ones and twos down the pipe and your head was right here. Higher level competition like Artur Beterbiev, Dmitry Bivol, aren't just going to stand there and let you throw punches without you moving your head. If you don't move it, they're going to move it for you. So get that head off that line. When you throw that one and when you load up for that right hand, don't keep your hand right here. You really want to use your feet, step over, and turn. Because when you turn and you do that motion, that's when you start getting your head off of that line. The more you get your head off of that line, the less likely you are to be hit with something in between a punch. Beterbiev has shown that he can knock out different styles, different methods by attacking the body, the head. So don't get caught in between a wide punch. We get it. It's your bread and butter. Punches and bunches, hard looping punches, but get your head off the line. Don't take a punch that you shouldn't be taking. Key number 2. This is going to be a little bit tricky, but you're going to have to go back and study a little bit of the guy that you knocked out to get into the scene, Bernard Hopkins. Fight on your terms. What that means is, Beterbiev likes to catch a lot of the punches, and you like to throw punches of bunches. Kind of like a recipe for success for you, right? But what's going to happen when he gets into the distance to shoot? Are you going to clinch? Are you going to use your feet work to get out of there? How are you going to negate some of his offense? How are you going to stop him from coming forward? Well, yeah, you can meet him with punches, but you also want to clinch to stall the action a little bit. You want to use your feet work to angle out and reset, because you want to fight on your terms so that you're not letting him break you down on a consistent basis. You fight on your terms, you're going to save some of that energy for the second half of the fight, where, when we saw you against Vaslav, you were having a little bit of a trouble when things got a little sloppy, when fatigue kicked in. So, fight on your terms. Whether you have to fight at a distance, get out to your distance, clinch, whatever you have to do, fight on your terms when you're ready to fight. And key number 3 is don't go straight back. What that means is, when he's coming forward, and he will come forward, you're not moving straight back in a straight line, getting caught with the end of a right hand to the head or to the body, or being pushed to the back with your back up against the ropes. No, angle out, don't go straight back. It's okay to step in and clinch. And when you're in there, get your head off that line. You do these 3 things, you're going to put yourself in a good position to pull off an upset. Whether that upset comes, we don't know. But what we do know is you're both heavy-handed, and one punch can change the whole dynamic of a fight. So stick to your game plan. And I want to see what approach you take to see how you're going to solve this puzzle of Artur Beterbiev. And then, speaking of Beterbiev, let's talk about his keys of victory. So, for Artur Beterbiev, the boogeyman, as they call him, key number 1 is going to be actually my favorite key of his, and it's his jab. He has a very sneaky, tricky jab. He doesn't just throw the jab straight. Sometimes he comes over the top. Oops, I'm knocking my microphone out. So sometimes he comes up over the top of your guard, or he waits for you to throw a jab, and then he'll come up with his jab of his own. But not only does he do that, he changes levels too when he's doing this. So you don't know if the jab's going to go to the body or to the head, or if it's going to be straight or come around. And the third thing he does with that jab is he feints. You don't know when it's coming. So Beterbiev, use that jab, because that jab's going to be critical for you covering the distance. Technically, you're the shorter fighter. Technically, he has a longer reach. I don't see it being a problem not being able to land a punch because of the reach and height advantage or disadvantage. But use that jab, because it's going to make life a little bit easier. He's not going to know whether to shoot, cover up, because you're going to be in his face, not letting him go into defensive mode or trying to counter or shoot his own shot. So use that jab. It's a beautiful thing. My favorite thing about Artur Beterbiev, by the way. Number 2 is going to be invest to the body. And when I mean invest to the body is Beterbiev has this sneaky right hand. Again, this guy does things that you just don't see. They're subtle. He has this right hand that goes straight to the body. He throws a jab, boom, to the body. And he starts stabbing people to the body. When you think they're covering up top, he'll start taking the gas out of you. So invest to the body, because we've seen him gas out against Maxim Vaslav. And he gets very sloppy. He gets sloppy, you're going to be able to get in there and take advantage and land punches more precisely. So invest to the body. And number 3 is going to be, don't catch everything. I get it. You break opponents down. You have your hands up. You catch a lot, and then you shoot your own shot. You go back to that high guard. Try not to catch everything. If you're going to add a wrinkle, go ahead and dip a little bit more. Roll with a couple more punches. Get your head off that line. But try not to catch everything, because with a high volume puncher and a heavy-handed puncher, we don't want one punch to just change the dynamic. If you're winning all the rounds and he lands a puncher, he has a puncher's chance and he changes the fight, don't catch everything. So use that sneaky jab, use it to land that right hand to the body, invest to the body, and don't catch everything. And if you do these 3 things, you're going to put yourself in a good position to win, and win by knockout. Now, as far as my prediction goes, ultimately, I really do like Artur Beterbiev. He's going to be a strong, sturdy opponent. Joe Smith does have a chance. He's a career underdog, and he's been in this position before. And you can argue that this is probably the position he wants to be in, kind of being overlooked and thought as a opponent and the guy that's going to get and continue Beterbiev's KO streak. But he does have a chance just because he does possess power. These are 2 rugged fighters, so it's going to be exciting while it lasts. I think Beterbiev is going to start taking over in the second half of their fight. First 4 rounds very competitive, and then class tells over time. He's a little bit more skillful, I want to say, but they're both very rugged. I think if he invests to the body, he'll be able to get Joe Smith out in the second half of the fight, but never count Joe Smith out because he's been in this position before. My prediction is Beterbiev gets him out, hopefully in the second half of the fight, and I say hopefully because I want to enjoy these rounds. I don't want to be cut short of excitement if it ends in rounds 1, 2, or 3. So I'm hoping that Beterbiev gets him out second half of the fight. I know Joe Smith is going to be game because that's the guy that always brings it. Unfortunately for him, he has a lot of holes in his game, a lot of gaps. He does have and possess his limitations inside the boxing ring. But what he lacks in skill, sometimes he makes it up with will. So how much will is he going to be able to bring to the table to ultimately change the game for Beterbiev? In my book, I got Beterbiev winning second half of the fight, KO, TKO. But I want to know what you guys think. What do you guys think is going to happen? How do you guys think this fight's going to end up going down? And I want to hear your predictions. All right, guys, website is still live. Let's keep it going. Social media handles. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.